Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining me today. And like I said in my intro video, I did want to make sure this is a different channel, a place for me to share my heart, definitely not scripted for the most part, if at all, and just kind of slower pace a little bit more pauses in between sentences, and kind of stream of consciousness a little bit here or there. There'll be some poems that I share in between different short, monologues like this. I don't even know if I call this a monologue, as more just stream of consciousness, sharing what's on my mind. But what was on my mind for today is just really wrapping our minds around the idea that Christians don't know how to love. And I know I've talked about that a little bit before in my channel, and there's some projects where that'll be touched on even more. But at the end of the day, Christians don't know how to love because of their worldview. And I hope that I can put those pieces together really well through some of the bigger presentations that I do, but just to summarize it, in brief today, when you grow up with the idea of God definitely loves you deeply and profoundly and unconditionally, but then you realize there's so many conditions to it, that discrepancy, if you live with it for a long time, where you just really have to constantly battle those two messages, God is going to bless you and he loves you so much, but he will curse you. And the cursing could be drastic. God does promise in the Old Testament to make some of his people so hungry that they need to eat their own children. He promises to lift up the skirts of his own children and show their nakedness to their enemies. Things like that. That just, this God is so psychopathic. And certainly with the rules of, stone your own children, and I will kill a bunch of the firstborn, and if your adult child is going to get married and they're not a virgin, stone them to death. Things like that. If your daughter gets raped in the field, marry her off to the rapist by getting a few shekels of silver. All kinds of really bizarre stories, which we know about. We talk about them a lot. But when you think about people today, not the Bible time stories, but just people today being groomed for all these stories, this whole background, and to call that love, to call that the most loving character possible in all history, in all imagination, and in all existence. This is the definition of love. It really twists your mind. It really does a mind job on you. And I hope that people can really see that for what it is. See that for the incredible deception that it is, that Christians are passing it on to the future generations. But for those in it, that there's self-deception. They think they know how to love because their master example that they want to follow is love. And it's really twisted. It's beyond twisted. And so we end up with situations where people end up easily, gladly, like in my case, depriving their partner of intimacy and even basic touch or a hug, because they want to punish you for not falling in line with their worldview and not doing it their way and their God's way. You end up with extreme sarcasm and snark. You can, as a person who's stepped away from it, as a person who has escaped from it and has moved on to much healthier, less toxic perspectives and a worldview that's very dramatically different, you can still get swallowed up by just the nonsense of it all. I mean, there's just so much nonsense. And for those where you've kind of moved on from it in every sense, it doesn't touch you as much apart from reading things on, social media or in the news, but you can still really get impacted by it from afar. But for sure, those where you have parents or loved ones close by that, you have to touch base with them and interact with them a lot more on an in-depth level, you can just get swallowed up by the nonsense, both the original worldview that they're trying to push on you, but also this extreme nastiness and the coldness, the snarkiness. It's so painful. And one thing that just happened to me that was just so amazing, and I really deeply appreciate it. Someone that's a professional counselor who's also a follower of this channel, they noticed that, by following my story and knowing more and more about me and what I'm going through, that this is some really difficult stuff. And they actually reached out and said, hey, I want to give you, free sessions to try to help you go through the grief of all this and the pain and figure out a path forward for what options you do have and don't have. But that was such an incredible gift, and I deeply appreciate that person for doing that. I'm taking them up on it. I definitely am aware that counseling will be very much in season for what I'm going through, very necessary for the healing. It's great to have a sounding board as well, just to talk about what's on your heart on the deepest levels, not just what you have to keep clean for YouTube, but just to be able to let it all out and share the nitty-gritty details. So that was such a helpful thing, and certainly if that person does watch this channel, I certainly appreciate that, and I want to say thank you. And to say thank you in general to the community. So many nice messages from people saying, you know, we can just tell. We can just tell you're a good guy. Like, you're a really you're a legit person, and you're a really good guy. And you really care about people. You care about your kids and your family and your world. There's just so many amazing ways in which your heart is showing through. And, you know, I think all of us struggle when we're deconverting and getting attacked by Christians to actually feel appreciated like that, because they're going to take all of our, as they would have said, take our good and turn it against us and call it evil. You know, they're going to see our goodness as something that's actually quite unhelpful. You know, when I say I'm trying to become healthy and less toxic, to them, they're seeing the path, that exact path is a very toxic path, which is so ironic, but you know, it is what it is. But when you look at that and you say, wow, like, you're trying your darndest to be healthy and whole and happy and to give your kids the best shot at stuff. And all they can do is just, you know, whack you and whack you and whack you with their coldness, their passive aggressiveness, their narcissism. You're just like, this is so painful. And I know some of you are going through it too, alongside me, because I see the emails, I see people reaching out, and just wow, this is crazy what some of you and myself are going through. We can try, but in some ways we both know that you're hitting against a brick wall, and the efforts are truly not worth it. Like, they're just not worth it. You are basically giving your energy to something that's going to end up just blowing up in your face or being ignored. So it's a very lonely road. It was already lonely perhaps during the deconversion. It's certainly very lonely now that you're post-deconversion. Christians don't know what love is. They really don't. They think they do. And you realize in some ways that they're traumatizing themselves. They're going through their own religious trauma. They just don't know it yet. They're traumatizing you, but they're also going through it themselves, whether it's ranging from purity culture to just, you know, the general sense of, you know, if God says, if you love me, I'll love you back. If you don't love me the right way, you don't believe in me, you don't do it my way or the highway, then I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you good, like a mafia boss. You know, that's their model. That's who they emulate. That's who they love to think about all day long. Like, this is love. And it's not. It's got nothing to do with love. It's extremely caustic, and it's extremely conditional. And if you don't do things their way, they want ultimate control. If you don't do things their way, if they lose any control, they're going to get you. They're going to get you, and they're going to make you pay for it so badly. I know this is a bit of a depressing thought, but I feel like this is a place too for me to be honest. I want to be honest about what I'm going through and what some of you are going through, because you reach out to me. And just to say, you know, there's no easy answers, obviously. I'm not professional, so I'd never want to act like I've got counsel that you should take. But just to say, I'm sorry you're going through it, and I definitely feel so much pain with you and for myself as well, especially those of you who are being actively punished in various ways by Christians. I wish you the best. I really do. I wish you healing. This life is a lonely road in many ways. We were already very lonely before. We just didn't realize it. We thought God was there, but it was much more lonely. We were without that God that we thought was there. But even on the other side of it, once we get over the grief of realizing that our Heavenly Father never existed, that it was all mythology, we still have so much to dive into. Just so many ways in which our lives have changed. And, you know, you did kind of win big time by escaping this Bible prison, but now you've got to deal with the aftermath. And a lot of it too is realizing that, you know, what you lose as a result of deconversion. It's not necessarily that you lost it. You realize you never had it. Like those of you that have lost spouses, even if you're still in the marriage, but you've lost them emotionally and romantically because of your deconversion, you're realizing you didn't actually lose them. You never had them. Jesus, mythology had them. Mythology had you, and you married under the umbrella of mythology. And when you escaped, all that's happened is your eyes were awoken to what you've been deceiving yourself on, and what you really now have to start over with, reclaim your identity. But you realize that the marriage that you had and the family ties that you had that were based on mythology were flimsy at best. And all it took was just a little understanding of reality, a little bit of truth, a little injection of rationality, a little bit of the cognitive dissonance taken away, and it's all gone. Just poof, it's out. And you realize you didn't actually lose them. You never had them. And boy, is that such a revelation, and to realize you could have gone to your deathbed with these flimsy relationships where if you just wake up your eyes and your mind a little bit, and they're going to hate you for it. You didn't have the relationship you thought you did. You never did, and unless they wake up, you never will. But if you do end up getting it, that's awesome. It's wonderful. It's what we all hope for, and so, until people have to split ways. But we hope for that in a sense. But even then, if you get it, you're starting over from scratch, which is better than things dissolving, of course. But starting over from scratch, if you can do it with so much more love and rationality and understanding and patience in your hearts than you ever did as Christians. Christian patience is limited. I always saw that God is so patient and long suffering, but it's like if you kept on doing that comparison of time versus eternity, like God loves you so much right now, He's just waiting. Why won't you come to me? But when you compare it to like this little sliver of time versus eternity, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, you realize His patience wasn't that big in that paradigm. His patience wasn't big at all. His patience was very slim, very short, very frivolous, and especially when you add in things like His jealousy. I'm a jealous God, and I will bless you, but I will also curse you. Like what father ever uses the words, I will curse my own children? Wow. But we saw that as love. We saw it as a good thing. And now the Christians that we are trying to get along with and have relationships with, they are stuck in this, and they're truly trying to emulate a psychopath. That's their worldview, is let's emulate a psychopath. You can't win in that. You can't. There's no way to win in that. They're always going to be trying to emulate a psychopathic demigod. The toxicity is through the roof, and you'll always lose. You'll always lose until they wake up. And that breaks my heart. Breaks my heart for me, breaks my heart for you. Again, this is a little bit of a sadder one. Not all the little episodes I do on this will be sad, but I do hope that it's helpful to talk some of it through. Some of the things I talk about here are going to be just off the cuff. Like I just thought about it, an hour ago, and I'm going to bring it up here. Some of it might be part of a bigger presentation where I'm like, I'm working through it. I'm going to actually bring slivers of that, to you here in a quick snapshot, but it'll actually be part eventually of a bigger presentation. There'll be mixtures and again, poetry coming in shortly, but this one was just more off the cuff, some things in my mind recently. And I hope you feel a big hug from the community. It's the best I can do for today, is just to say, feel a big hug from us. We know we're going through it. Many of us, we know what you're going through, and oof, boy, does it hurt. It hurt. And I know, some of us either physically or at least emotionally cry ourselves to sleep at night. And it's just, there's no end in sight to this. It's so dark. I'm sorry, but keep on trying to heal from your own religious trauma. Keep on trying to understand how your trauma began even before you were in the current trauma. What just as childhood, what did this worldview do to you? Try to undo your worldview or the religious trauma that your loved ones that are Christians are trying to inflict on you currently, and just try to keep on doing the hard work. Don't take shortcuts. This is deep stuff, and some of it's going to take years to unwind and unravel and undo, but it's worth it. And I do want to leave you with this encouragement too. I keep saying this to myself, pursue the beauty. create beauty everywhere you go. If you walk into a room and you see trash, find a way to turn that trash into a piece of art. I know we see people that have done that in art museums, and it's pretty cool. It's people come up with, but metaphorically speaking, every time you see trash and chaos, turn it into something beautiful if you can. You're beautiful, your life is beautiful, and you are an artist who can make beautiful things with what's been given to you. Even when the hand is hard, the hand of cards you've been given is not what you hope for. Try to heal. And if time allows, try to create something beautiful out of it, if only for yourself. But I think those things, like a snowball effect, it adds up. Today, you're making something beautiful, but it's really small. It's just a small, maybe it's this quick saying that you say to yourself, like, that makes a lot of sense. Doesn't help, doesn't heal, but that makes sense. It's a good way to see it, this or that. And we see that on different, social media pages, things people post something, it's like, that helps. It helps to see it that way. Create something beautiful or dwell on something beautiful, but, keep on doing it. Don't see it as just, I just need to get through today. I just need to, survive. Yes, survive while you have to in the survival mode, but, build it up eventually to the point of you start to actually create something, if only for yourself. Be a content creator, starting with yourself. Create ways to make your life beautiful, despite the passive-aggressive Christian narcissism that's occurring. There's got to be some way that we can say we will thrive and we will move past the worst parts of this, despite Christians' wishes and hopes that we fail and fall flat on our faces and obviously fall prostrate before our God. They want us to fail in some ways. We're not going to fail. There's no mission, I give up. We're not giving up. Our mission is clear. We're gonna make the best of a bad situation, and we're gonna try to help people escape mythological worldviews. But man, oh man, oh man, your heart's worth it. Build yourself up. Build your walls high. I talk to my kids even. Build the worldview walls high, so that when the storms come, like a castle that's surrounded by, like Mont Saint Michel, castle surrounded by the water. When the waves come and the storm hits, you're fortified. Fortify your heart as much as you can. You're worth it. You're absolutely worth it. And we love you. So feel a big hug from us if you can. Feel a really big hug from us. We love you all, and feel a really big hug from me. Thanks again for listening. I look forward to doing more of these. This one's probably a little bit longer than I'm going to do for most of them. It's about 20 minutes, I think, but I'll do shorter ones for most of them. But just little snippets here or there is my goal, to just say, I care and I want to connect with you, even when I'm focused on other projects, and some of the other bigger projects are taking time, and I'm quieter on that front, so to speak, or taking a couple days to edit an interview as I do new interviews. I want to be able to still touch base with you all here or there, so I appreciate your willingness to let me be a part of your life. Really, really do. Thanks again. Have a great day. Bye-bye.